All right, so it's a few days later here. Still waiting on an oil pump and my heads to get back from the machine shop. So we're going to kind of do what we can with the engine today. There's not a whole lot we can do. We can get the water pump on, we can get the oil pan on. I've already got the gasket replaced, the O-ring replaced for this oil pickup. Got the baffle and the pickup tube bolted on, replaced the gasket for the oil cooler, got the oil filter on. I got my head gasket kit. You can find these pretty cheap on Parts Geek. So we'll just kind of go through what it all includes. So obviously we've got the head gaskets. These are new gaskets for the timing cover, a few different pieces here. And then we've got a throttle body gasket, intake manifold gaskets, exhaust gaskets. We've got valve spring seals. We've got some camshaft seals, spark plug tube seals, valve cover gaskets. I already got all 10 new valve cover grommets on the bolts. Yeah. Then I believe these are our crossover tube O-rings. Got a water pump gasket, some copper washers, got some RTV silicone gasket maker, got other little random seals. There's like a thermostat seal in there, a bunch of other little things. Got our new thermostat, got the thermostat housing. In order to put that on with the thermostat in there, we have to put the water pump on. And of course we've got our oil pan gasket here. So I'm going to go ahead and get some of this stuff on, and I'll update you guys as I get it done. It's pretty straightforward, and I'll let you know how it goes. Alright, so for the oil pan, what we're going to do here, the gasket to the block is going to be bare. Now in between the oil pan and the gasket, we're going to have to put some silicone sealant on there. So we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're just going to need to get a decent sized bead around this oil pan. There's little divots in it, so we definitely want to fill that up. Just basically to where we're going to have a nice smooth clean surface mating to the oil pan gasket. And then we're just going to take the gasket, once we get this all smoothed out, and we're going to stick it right on here, line it up with the bolt holes, and that way it'll be super easy to drop onto the block. Okay, so we've got the bead laid around here. You go to the inside of the bolt holes. So we're just going to get this smoothed out where it's nice and even all the way around. And then we'll drop the gasket right onto this and line up all the bolt holes. Alright, so then you just want to go through, kind of clean up your edges. You don't want silicone floating into the pan. It is going to kind of ooze out a little bit, so we want to take this inside edge off. I got some brake clean on a rag here, so we'll just go ahead and do that. Just kind of bring it back from the edge. Okay, so we got our gasket here. Line it up, it only goes on one way. Drop it on, square it up to all the holes. Just kind of run along it a tiny bit, get it seated on that silicone. And then you can go around and take off any of the little bits that isn't going to seal to the gasket. Just like the corners. Basically try and prevent any of it from getting taken off when your engine's running and floating around and getting caught anywhere. Alright, so after that, make sure you got your block all prepped up, nice and clean. We've done that here. So now we're going to go ahead and slap this on. Nice and gentle. Okay, go ahead and grab some bolts. And we're just going to tighten it in like 4 places. Well, not even tighten it, just start running them down to where they're nice and snug, not tight, so that way we can go around and get it tightened down evenly. Very gently run them down to where they're barely even snug. Go in that crisscross pattern like you would for a tire, just to get started out. So we know everything's in place. And you get the rest of your bolts, put them all in, and then you're just going to run around, get them all evenly tightened down, and then we'll figure out what the final torque spec is and get that done. Okay, so I've got all of them started. So now I'm going to take just my extension without a ratchet or anything, and I'm just going to start running them down until they all start seating. Make sure they're all even. You can do a crisscross pattern if you want, but it'll work either way. Okay, so the torque spec for these bolts, it's not going to be ungodly tight, so don't go and crank them all down. You will end up breaking them. I've done it before. It's technically 4.7 foot-pounds for the, it says 2.5 liter and the 3.6s. This is a 2.5 liter, so it's so hard to get 5 foot-pounds to click on a foot-pound torque wrench or a 3/8 drive torque wrench. So I'm going with a 1/8 inch drive, which is in inch pounds. So in order to convert foot pounds to inch pounds, you just do whatever the number is in foot pounds, which is 5, and then you multiply it by 12. So it's going to be 60 inch pounds.
There you go.
Okay, once you get that done, it's a good idea to run around one more time. Just make sure you got every single bolt. Count them, there's 14. Alrighty, and that's how you do the oil pan. Alright, once you got that all bolted on, you don't have to do this, but I like to do it just because I hate making a mess, but you can spray some brake cleaner on a rag and go through and wipe off your ooze. anywhere that you can reach at least. We did the perfect amount. There's not a ton of it that oozed out, so that tells me it's not oozing out in the inside as well a lot. So mainly just kind of get the ooze off right here where the oil pump goes, because you don't want that to interfere with how the oil pump seals. All right, perfect. Okay, so if you're all gung-ho about getting this resealed and getting it back in the engine, you do need to wait 24 hours for this to set up. That's pretty standard for any RTV, just because you don't want it getting hot before it's fully set up and dried, because then it won't ever seal properly. There are some other silicone gasket makers out there that do cure faster, and you can use the product faster after you apply it. But it kind of works out if, like, I'm waiting on my heads and other parts, so I can't build this engine fully and go drop it in right now. So it's going to have plenty of time, like a solid week to set up. So just make sure you're not rushing it. You don't want something like this to be leaking. You want it done right. Okay. So I've changed up the angle a little bit. Hopefully you guys can see better. So we're going to do the same thing we did with the oil pan. We're just going to put a thin layer of RTV around here. Some people say don't do it. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything as long as you don't get any oozing out into the actual water pump here. That rubber gasket that was in that bag there is for this right here. Fits in there pretty easy. Pretty simple. So we're going to go ahead and line this, slap the gasket on it, and then bolt it to the engine. So here we go. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and bolt this on. Alright, so there's actually 6 bolts. So we'll go ahead and get one pushed through. Get your stuff moved out of the way. Make sure your mating surface on the block is nice and clean. Otherwise you will have a failure in the gasket and it will leak from there, and then you kind of have to tear apart the whole engine again to get it fixed, and it's not fun. Okay, so we got it started. Just get it to where they're just barely tight, barely even hand tight. Make sure the pressure is being applied evenly. So we've got all 6 of them barely tightened down. Okay, so 8.7 foot-pounds. We're going to go multiply that by 12. Comes out to about 105 inch-pounds. So let's go ahead and get that set up. Do your crisscross pattern here, and we're going to do this in 2 stages. So basically you're going to torque them all down to 105 inch-pounds twice. Do it again. Perfect. So we're all good there. Now you can take this hose, plug it in with the water pump, as we're going to do the thermostat. So I'm going to flip this over. Okay, so the new thermostat, it does come with a seal, which theoretically should seal it from leaking. However, I have had it leak on me before. So I like to just put a little bit of silicone. I'm going to do it on the actual thermostat housing, which is right here. So I got to get that cleaned up real quick. Put a little silicone on there and then pop this in. And you can go ahead and pop this in. And it should kind of keep itself in there. Okay. Alright guys, so we're back. It's a couple days later. I realized that my camera died as I was installing the thermostat housing for the water pump. So you can see here, it's installed. It's super simple. You want to put a little layer of silicone on the thermostat housing, bolt it up, of course install your thermostat before that, and then tighten your bolts. I didn't really torque them, I just tightened them to where they're tight. Okay, so we got the engine flipped back over. These are the coolant crossover tube O-rings. I did put a little dab of silicone on the backside just to keep them in place because I am going to be flipping this over again, so I don't want them to fall out and get lost or anything like that. So that's just a little tip for you. As long as you don't do too much, it's not going to affect how it seals when you put that crossover tube on. So at this point, everything is sealed up and dried. Water pump is sealed. This is sealed. The oil pan is nice and sealed up. So yeah, other than that, you'll see our little pull and save expedition. I realized that this timing cover was completely cracked and broken. The guy that worked on the car before me must have done that. So I went to pull and save and I got a whole new piece here. I also got this piece up for the end of it. Got a whole bunch of bolts. I also got my valve cover gaskets in. I don't believe there's any silicone needed when you put these on. Some Subarus you do have to put silicone in the corners in certain places just to make sure it seals properly, but I don't believe that's the case for this one. So at this point I should be getting the heads back from the machine shop here in a day or two. So I'm going to cut the video here because this is basically as far as I can go. I've got the head bolts soaking in oil. That just helps when it comes to threading them in. It goes nice and smooth. Other than that, I think that's really about it. Waiting on the oil pump, that's still 4 days out or so. So that kind of sucks because I really don't want to reuse the old one, even though it still works good. It's just when I sell this car, I want someone to have a really good, reliable vehicle for 100,000 plus miles. So that's the goal here. I'm not trying to screw anybody over. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know what you want to see more of. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them in the comments below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.